Hey guys, just before we start, we just wanted to share something important. Voices Unlocked is a podcast about real life experiences and the experiences of others growing up with a parent in prison. We're not therapists or counsellors, and we're not here to give professional advice, but this is a safe space at the end of the day and a place for people to listen, reflect, and hopefully feel less alone. So please do me a favour, because some of these conversations can be emotional. So look after yourself while listening. That is all we ask for. Please enjoy our episodes. Love you, bye. Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 4 of Voices Unlocked. This episode we are going to look at school, education, and what it's like being a young person in school with a parent in prison. Before we start this, I would like to say that I did really well in education. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I did really well. I've got a degree. Your girl's got a degree. Your girl's going to go back and do a master's degree next year, maybe a year after Australia. But I mean, I'm just want to put it out there that I did thrive in education, and we will get into more why I was able to get into all that. But crazy that like that period of my time I was in school, like I was little, I went to education every day. It's like one of them things, like, do you know when I watch like a TV show? Like this is so unrelated, but I'll watch something like The Vampire Diaries or like Pretty Little Liars, and I'll be like, they're going through all that and they're going in the morning, I'm just going to go to school while they've got like a stalker trying to follow them, or like vampires
whatever
around, whatever their backstory is, and they're still going to school.
I'm a werewolf, but I'm still going to school.
Literally, I'm a vampire, but you know, I'm still going to education for like the 6 millionth time in all the years I've lived. But it's like, I was going through something and still went to school. Do you know what I mean? I still kept that normal routine of life and going into school, but school can be so difficult, I think.
Yeah. And I think you because as you've shared on this podcast, your mum went away both when you were in primary school and secondary school.
Yeah.
You will have had experiences of kind of going to school, you know, with your mum away in both of those settings.
I've got so many funny stories about going into school though, that's hilarious. But just before we get into it, as you all know by now, it was my mum that went away. But obviously, this is not just, this podcast isn't just based on mums, it's based on dads, brothers, siblings, aunties, uncles, anyone in your family. You can get advice from this. But out of my curiosity, because my mum's been away twice, when I was in primary school and when I was in secondary school. You've been in this field for so long now. You've done so much research in it. Like, I love you so much because of how much you care for us as individuals and how much you care on the matter. I just wanted to know, like, statistically, how many women are in prison who are mothers as well?
I'm going to play, because I am actually going to play the game that I play with my students when I give a lecture on this.
Oh my God.
So what I always say is, like, there are roughly, I think it's about, obviously the prison population changes, it fluctuates slightly year by year, but I think there's about 88,000 men in prison currently in the UK. So I always play, like, you know, remember Higher or Lower? You know, that big card game? I actually do like to play that game.
I like that game, but I'm dyspraxic, so I'm not good with numbers.
No, okay, so there's 88,000 men in prison.
Yeah.
How many women do you reckon are in prison?
What is this GCSE question right now? I can't go. On education, guys, we're doing a maths lesson.
Just give me a number and I'll go lower or higher. Just any number. Just throw me a number.
77.
Lower.
60.
Way lower. Lower.
50.
Lower.
40.
Lower.
30.
Lower.
12.
Lower.
10.
Lower.
8.
Lower.
5.
About 4,500 women are imprisoned compared to 88,000 men currently. And I always play that game because people are always really, really surprised at, like, the disparity in the numbers.
That's insane.
So therefore, I mean, like, we are going to focus predominantly in this episode about having what it's like, to go to school with a parent in prison and experiences of education. But it's also important to recognise that maternal imprisonment is more unusual than paternal imprisonment. And that really relates because I think when you go to school, you stand out slightly more if it's your mum who you don't live with compared to if it's your dad that you don't live with. You're a little bit more exposed because it is more unusual.
Yeah, because it's normally the mums that do the school run, isn't it?
Yeah. it's and it's just more unusual not to live at home with your mum and to live with your grandparents than live with your mum and have your dad in prison. People might go under the radar a little bit more. So school then, like, what was it like? Let's go to primary school days.
Let's go all the way back. Rewind. So in school, you were
a good kid. You liked school.
I enjoyed school. I loved school. I loved art. I loved drama. I loved music. I loved English.
You were brilliant at English.
I love English so much. I used to love it.
It's because you're a reader. I'm a big books.
Read books. I'm a big bookworm. But I loved school. I've always lived with my grandparents. Me and my mum lived with me nan. My mum would have like a house every now and then. She'd move around a lot. But I was used to living with my grandparents anyway, so that really weren't out the norm for me. But there were times like my mum used to take me to school and stuff. I'd go into school late. But I used to remember walking to school with my mum and she'd get me a breakfast bar, a Square's breakfast bar. And I loved it. I was what I looked forward to in the morning was a Square's breakfast bar. I'd eat it on the way to school, get into school. I'd have a good day. My nan would pick me up. It'd be my nan who'd come and pick me up. My nanny Ginger Ninja, love ya. She will take me to school. Bearing in mind, she was like late 60s, early 70s at the time, probably. Was she? Yeah, she would be, wouldn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. She was old, my nan. She's still here, by the way. Great nan, yeah. So it was my grandma, it was my great nan. I lived with her. She'd walk me to school every morning and pick me up from school. And I think school was great. I noticed things were changing when I got a mentor. And I think that's how I deep down knew something was going on. So I got a mentor in school. Her name was Miss Keogh. I don't think she'd mind me saying her name.
Yeah.
I hope she listens to this. I hope Miss Keogh's out there
because you
somewhere.
Always talk about her really fondly.
Yeah, I remember all of them. I had, over the course of me being in school, primary and secondary, I had 3 mentors. I had Miss Keogh, who was in me primary school. Then I had Gail. Gail used to look after our Elliot as well when our Elliot was in school because the school got changed and she followed. And then Mike Schofield, he was my other mentor, really got on with Mike as well after Gail left. But I had mentors in school, so I was really lucky in that sense.
So you had that extra pastoral support.
Yeah, I had really good pastoral support. I loved it, I did. The only thing was when my mum went away, I struggled in school slightly with the idea of it. We weren't in school that much. It was more like families on the playground. It was...
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah,
because I know that you are not the only child who have overheard gossip, I guess.
So the community I'm from is really small and it's changed a lot over the years. But when I was younger, it was a really small knit community. Everyone knew everyone. Everyone knew my mum. Everyone still knows my mum. She was loud. She was always out and about, doing whatever she was doing, living her life. Everyone knew her. Me nan, all my nans lived in a triangle to each other in proximities, and the aunties and uncles lived round it on both sides of the family, on my dad's and my mum's. There was obviously kids in my school whose parents my mum grew up with and went to school with.
Right.
So they knew that my mum was away. And they'd all talk amongst each other. So it kind of come from the parents, what the kids were hearing. And the kids were picking up on it. Like I'd go into school and it'd be like, is your mum in jail?
Right.
Do you know your mum's in jail? And I was like, yeah.
That's hard.
It was more, as a child, looking back, it's more curiosity from the kids. They're curious. Kids are curious. They want to know things. Like, find out someone's in jail. It's like, oh my God, their mum's in jail. What?
Yeah.
It's like a shock. But it come with a lot of not being invited to birthday parties.
So do you feel like because other families knew that you had a mum in prison, that you were kind of excluded, like, don't play with that kid?
Yeah. Yeah, I was automatically labelled as a naughty kid when my mum went away, and I was far from a naughty kid. My nan says this to this day, like I am the polar opposite from both of my parents in a way of, I'm not saying that my mum or dad are bad people, but I'm the polar opposite to them personality wise. Like where I'm at, and I'm very much a go-getter. Like, I'm very motivated.
You're ambitious.
I'm ambitious. Like, what I want, I will get it. Whenever I get it, I'll get it at some point. I don't give up on things like that. And I was like that in school. I wanted to do well in school. I wanted to do well in my SAT. I wanted to do well in my GCSEs. I struggled a lot more in secondary education than what I did in primary school, I think. I found that a lot more difficult.
Yeah. Well, just being a teenager's hard at the best of times. So, you know, when you like just going back and you were saying like you felt like that labelling and that judgment, like, did you want your teachers to know that you had a parent in prison, or would you have preferred it if they didn't know? And that's a really hard...
I didn't want my school to know.
So tell me about that. Why?
So basically, there's one story I'm going to delve into now, and I think it's a perfect opportunity to do it. Teachers nowadays still don't have the correct training on how to support a child with a parent in prison. They don't. It's what's lacking. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, I know the legislation's changed now under like education and things like that in Children's Act safeguarding, where, you know, schools should be informed or vice versa. However, right to privacy. There was a period of time in school, I was in a lesson. I'm a little kid. I play up sometimes. Do you know what I mean? I'm having a laugh with my mates. I'm winding one of my mates up. I'm doing something silly. Do you know what? I can't even remember what I did. It was honestly not... You
were just being a kid.
I was being a kid. If it was something serious, I'd remember, because I remember everything. And the teacher was trying to talk, and I was basically being silly. And it was a substitute teacher, and I think she was on uni placement at the time, and she shouted at me to stop. So I said, "Don't shout at me, you're not me mum." And that's what I used to say, "Don't shout at me, you're not me mum."
Yeah.
And that's what I said to her, and she went, "Well, if you carry on the way you're going, you're going to end up like your mum."
Wow.
That come from someone who was supposed to be safeguarding me at that time. I was in their care 8 hours a day. You're looking after me physically, emotionally, and you're on the job to make sure I'm safe, as well as educating me and learning me. And I just remember all the kids went quiet in my class, and they all just like looked at me, and I was like, what? And I burst into tears, and I took myself out of my lesson. I was in primary school. I was in like year 5.
I actually remember that, because your great nan, got on the phone to me. She was really worried about how upset you were. And I went into the school and had a meeting in the staff room. I even remember what that staff room looked like. And I had a meeting with the staff, because the staff were like, you know, she just cries all the time, or she runs out of lessons all the time. And I was like, I remember like explaining to them about like the grief and your attachment, and, you know, like how tricky it was to regulate your emotions at the time, and just advocating, I think, for you and making sure that they really truly understood what you were going through.
They never took me seriously though in certain situations in primary school, because if I was having a bad day about my mum, or someone had said something about my mum, which 9 times out of 10 was on a daily basis, someone would say something about my mum. So like
other kids would say like just stuff to you about your mum.
Just stuff about my mum, like rude things, disrespectful things. And I used to, so I had asthma, like I've said before. I used to get that upset that I had anxiety. It was panic attacks.
And you
would
struggle to breathe.
And I'd struggle to breathe. And I'd go to the reception, and I'd tell me reception that I was having an asthma attack. And it wasn't. It was not an asthma attack I was having. It was a panic attack. And he'd ring me nan, and my nan would come and collect me from school. Like, I'd go to school, but I'd try and get sent home from school all the time. If it weren't me chest, it was a headache. I had a headache. I felt sick. I'd hurt myself on the playground. I fell over. I always wanted to go home. And what's really weird is, so my cousin, she's a year younger than me. So there's 3 of us girls, them 2 are sisters. So there's the older one and the younger one. And then there's me in the middle. And my mum's older sister had the 2 girls. Now, me cousin, she was a year below me, and my other cousin, she was 2 years ahead, so she'd left at this point. But my younger cousin had this overpowering urge to be my protector.
Right.
Which was really weird, because I'm the older cousin. But like, I think because of everything I went through, and like the way I was in school and stuff, and I was like, she can stand up for herself. Like, she will. Like, she always has been like that since she was little. I was more reserved. I didn't like confrontation. I don't like confrontation.
No,
I can
you
hold
don't.
myself a lot better now than what I could in school. I'd run away from it. But every time I'd cry or be upset or something had happened, it was my little cousin. She was a year below me on the playground. She'd be the first day. What's up? What's going on? And she'd
Standing up
back
for
me.
you.
She'd want to back me to like these other kids, or even to teachers. If a teacher upset me, she'd be like, no, I'm telling me nan. I'm telling me mum to tell me nan. And she had like a protective thing over me, because I think like, even though she was young, I think she had like that part of her who felt like because it's her auntie who's away as well. Do you know what I mean? She had that overwhelming urge to make sure that I was okay. They're like my sisters, to be honest, but she had that overwhelming urge to protect me, even in school at that young age. And she was a year younger than me. It was insane.
Yeah. And I think like there were so many kids that I've met over the years that have had like really mean comments said to them, like whether it's in the playground or in the classroom, or like people being judgy about the parents. And a lot of children like do therefore find, however ambitious they are, like school can be a really tricky place to be.
I think it's worse though, like when, I think it can be like a little bit more difficult when, so my nan, bless her, she used to take, she couldn't do me hair. She could not do me hair. And there was some parents on the playground who used to do me hair when I get there. My auntie couldn't come round and do me hair beforehand. There was parents, mums on the school playground who'd do me hair when I got there. My nan, I had a PE lesson. And my nan sent me in to school with a Netto bag. A Netto bag.
As if you didn't have enough trauma.
As if I didn't have enough trauma anyway, and people weren't going on about my mum. I looked 10 times worse coming in with a Netto bag. Looked like I was getting neglected. Honestly, a Netto bag. And I remember like me cousin being like, why the hell has me nan sent you in with a Netto bag? And I was like hiding the bag, trying my hardest to hide it. I think someone swapped the bag with me. I think I put the bag in the bin and someone gave me like a normal blue carrier bag that you get from the shop, but that was 10 times better than a Netto bag. I was getting called a Netto basher in school in the first 5 minutes of me being on the playground. Oh, it was so bad. Like stupid things like that. Like, it's funny looking back on, like when my mum first come out as well, she'd been away for some time and I was going into secondary school, and obviously you get your uniform and you get your bits, right? So my mum was like, I want to take her for a school uniform. She's starting year 7. It's
she
a big
wanted to do the
milestone.
mum-daughter thing.
I still don't forgive Melanie for this, you know. Still don't forgive my mother. She took me into town and I was getting my PE kit, and there were these Nike runner shoes, yeah. Everyone was getting these Nike runner shoes. I was begging for them, right? I want these Nike shoes. I want them. And my mum's going, you're being very selfish here. Like, I'm spending a lot of money on everything that you want, and a new bag for school and this. She went, these are so cool. I used to wear these. Everyone used to walk around in these back in the day. My mum got me a pair of Reebok Classic.
I mean, I don't really understand like the status with the
if
Reebok
anyone's
Classic.
out there, you know what I mean by Reebok Classics. The black old Reeboks, like a show. No offence, but like I could not be seen. It was like me going in a Puma
that's
trackie.
kind of retro.
It's like me going in a Puma trackie or a Shell trackie with a pair of Reebok Classics.
I'm obviously way too old for this podcast because I didn't even know what's cool and what.
I was ripped. Back off me was ripped when I got into school, and first time I done PA, everyone was buzzing off me Reebok Classics. Honestly, It made it 10 times worse for me. If I didn't have enough struggles going on, but it's the thing of like being away for so long and not realising what trends were in now and what was cool and what wasn't.
Okay, yeah, so that's interesting.
And like even my aunties and uncles were like, you did not send it into school in a pair of Reebok Classics, to the point where my mum wanted to make a point so much that she would not get me a new pair of PE shoes. So I took the Reebok Classics and I stuffed them under my bed where the wooden slats.
Yeah.
I squashed the Reebok Classics down and put them in between the wooden slats and the mattress and told her I lost my shoes and left them in school.
Wow.
And my granddad got me a pair of Nike runners like 2 days later. And I didn't do PE until I got me Nike runners.
Wow.
And then she found them not that long after and was like, there's the shoes. And I was like, yeah, they can get bin them. I'm not walking around in a pair of them.
But I guess like growing up, like, like everything feels like super sensitive at the best of times, doesn't it? Like what bag you're carrying and what trainers you're wearing.
That was it. It was all like, what?
You're
Like, now
sensitive.
I'm not bothered. Now I don't care. Like, I'll wear anything. It doesn't faze me. I'm not one for labels and things like that. But back then, it was like your social life depends on it. And school is difficult.
School
with
is
kids.
hard under the best of circumstances.
Yeah.
Growing up, like there is just so much like judgment and stigma, like anyway. Never mind like people finding out, what's happened in your family and like saying like mean things, or teachers saying things like you don't want to end up like your mum. Like that must have been like
that was the worst time for me. At school went from being my safe place to somewhere I didn't want to be anymore.
So if there was a teacher listening to this and they're thinking, oh, there probably is kids in my school with a parent in prison, like what are the do's and don'ts? Like what advice?
I love this question. I love this question. I get asked this question all the time. Taking the kids out of class. Let's start there. I think taking a child out of the classroom,
like for an intervention or for a support.
For one, it's a lot, because that lesson might be one of their favourite lessons and it's the only time they get to take their minds off things. Second of all, the mates are around. What are you getting taken out of class for?
Yeah.
What's going on there? Why did you miss that lesson? How come you get to go out a lesson? Kids asking questions. You're missing something that you might necessarily want to enjoy. And there could be days that you don't even want to talk about what's going on at home because it is your safe space. So why are you getting taken out for an intervention which necessarily you don't need in that moment?
So I think it's like so hard, isn't it? Because I think like sometimes like the only place that support can take place is in schools.
If they had the right training though, it wouldn't bother me. If they had the right training, because like you were saying before, there's different versions of grief. I can tell you now, if someone's parent had died and they were in school, they'd be treated completely differently from when the parent was in prison.
Oh yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
And I think that's not fair. The child's still grieving someone, the main person in their life or one of the main people in their lives. They need that just the same amount of support as that other child's getting.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot for them to handle with. And I've spoken to a lot of teachers when I've gone into mental kids and they're like, we've never done this field before. We don't know where to start or what the right thing or wrong thing to say is.
I get emails quite a lot of schools reaching out saying, can you come in and like deliver training? And, it definitely needs to be like scaled up but I think it's the quality of the training that counts, because somebody can put a training course together and it can also be full of misinformed or out of date statistics. And I do think like, with that teacher saying to you, you don't want to end up like your mum. Like if I've heard it once, and it's probably a good time to bring it up. If I've heard it once, I've heard it a million times, of whether it's teachers or professionals or people generally in society assuming that if you've got a parent in prison, statistically, you're likely to follow suit. And I just want to like just putting my academic head on here. There is no longitudinal studies that are current. There is no like up-to-date research that shows like a cause and effect relationship of intergenerational offending. Absolutely, in some families, more than one person in the family may have gone to prison, but it's much more complicated than that. It's not a cause and effect situation. So it's absolutely not a situation where, because you've had a mum or dad in prison, statistically you're more likely to go. It's if it happens within families, it's usually for much more complicated reasons. And I've been working for 18 years with kids from Time Matters, and all of our young adults, none of them have ended up committing a crime. None of them have ended up in the criminal justice system. Like there's no actual kind of proof in those like outdated statistics that are banded around like so many times. I mean, I was like in the hairdressers not that long ago. She says, flicking her hair. And, the hairdresser was asking me what I did. And I was saying, I help kids who've got parents in prison. And she, and it's that kind of innocence but misinformed attitudes of, do you help the kids so that they won't end up going to prison themselves? And it's like such a bugbearer. And it's not even that like individual hairdresser's fault, because it is the way that the media portrays, you know, people that have lived through this, the situation that you have. It's, you know, really, it's, you know, it's that kind of like feeling that, you know, you're bound to follow suit. And so obviously, like, I have to like be really clear that like, no, we're putting support in place because you've had trauma, and ethically it's the right thing to do, not because I think on any stretch of the imagination that you're going to grow up and potentially commit crime.
Exactly.
So I do think, like, when it comes back to teachers and training, it's like, do not start from the standpoint of you're preventing these children being bad kids. I think start from the standpoint that these children are traumatized and they need support. Like, you know, just putting that out there. But yeah, I know, like, from a lot of kids, emotions can run high. And I know from some kids that have come to the support group, you know, that they perhaps have been sent to isolation.
Can we just like deep dive that? Can we just literally deep dive that? I got sent to isolation when I was in school.
But from being upset about your mum being away?
About my mum being away. I was in an argument with someone in school, and we got into an argument, and basically this was secondary school. My mum was on some form of platform. What she done was on some form of social media platform.
Yeah.
I didn't know until I seen the video, because someone sent me it, and it got put into a Snapchat group, I think.
Yeah, social media these days, it's tough.
Some girl was talking about it in school. Like, I weren't there, like I weren't standing there. And we got into a conversation about it and got into an argument about it. She said something about me mum and me granddad. And I was close to my granddad, but she said something about my mum and my granddad, what triggered me. And it's when it come out about my granddad, a flip switched in my head and I got angry and upset. So I got sent to isolation for the day, because they thought that I need to calm down and regulate my thoughts. Why are you putting me into an institutionalised area to gather my thoughts when I am upset about my mum?
Whereas what we really need is for other young people to also, we really need other young people to also realise that their words and their hurt, and they also need educating, you know, whether it's in, is it PSHE? Is that what they call it?
EHCP.
No, that's a different thing. There's some kind of lesson that kids have in senior school, which is like about, you know, like kind of wider things in society.
I never had that. I had psychology.
Okay.
I had psychology, health and social care.
Okay. Well, anyway, like kind of like those kind of wider debates, but there needs to be like, you know, the intervention needs to be actually what the words that you're using and the things that you're saying about this girl's family are not kind.
Yeah.
And it's really not your place to be making those comments, rather than you being punished for having your emotions being dysregulated.
Can I also throw out there as well that our stories are not your staff room gossip.
Nice.
So if you have a child in your school, this is to the teachers. If you have a child in your school with a parent in prison and your curious little academic mind wants to know more, please don't search in the child's parent's name. Don't try and find out more information, and don't speak to Year 4's teacher or the pastoral care team. And please don't do that, because you're putting yourself, for one, in a vulnerable position with your job role, because you shouldn't be doing that, because that's GDPR. Is that what it's called? GDPR?
Yeah.
Data protection over here. And also you are putting a vulnerable child in danger. There's been a lot of children that I have spoke to over many years whose case or whatever about the parents has been in the paper, and it's been put on the projector in school. It's been sent round to kids in school. It's been on computers because it's been published in the media. There's been teachers who've been curious and searched it on the phones, and it's come up on projectors.
I mean, I do think we should talk about that. I think we should talk like about a couple of like, when people get curious, how that can be, you know, an actual safeguarding risk, because let's face
and
it,
detrimental to a child's safety. You know, you don't know what mental state that child is in. You have not got a clue what that child is going through. You know, there could be things like suicidalization or anything, do you know what I mean? Not like getting too deep into it, but like the way social media works now, like a child could be feeling low. You don't know how low that child's feeling. You're just putting sprinkles on top of that cake, love.
Yeah.
You are putting the cherry right on top. Your concern shouldn't be what the parent's done. That doesn't matter. Another thing, please do not ask these children or young people what the parent done to get away. And if you are a young person, don't answer the question. It's
Just
none of
say,
your
I
business.
don't want to answer that.
Just say, I don't know. I don't care. Or do what some of the other kids do and say she's gone to the shop for milk.
Yeah.
That's what we make jokes about it. Like there's kids who, when they get asked that question, do genuinely make jokes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a Tracy Beaker moment. I used to watch Tracy Beaker growing up, and she used to say that her mum was a movie star. I used to say all sorts. I used to say my mum was working away.
And it's okay.
She was in fashion. She was a hairdresser. It's okay to not want to answer that question, because you shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
And other people shouldn't be asking that question because it's disrespectful and it's none of their business.
Yeah, I would definitely say if there's any young people listening and you're aware that there's another young person in your school with a parent in prison, just definitely don't ask that question of what did your mum do? What did your dad do? It's not a nice question to ask. You might be curious, but that person with a parent in prison, one, they might not even know what their parent did. And secondly, you know, that they might not want to answer that question. You shouldn't even be asking that question.
What's that saying? Curiosity kills the cat.
Curiosity killed the cat. But like, I do think there's a couple of stories I want to share before we wrap this episode up. And I do think in a later episode, we'll look more as well about going to school with a parent in prison, because I think it's such a big topic. It can't be done in one episode. But we did, you're actually the volunteer mentor, but we have supported a child not that long ago whose teacher was Googling the criminal offence, found the online article, and somehow, whether it was intentional, whether it was by mistake, this had linked to a big whiteboard in the classroom, and the article was shared with the whole class. So I think it's just really traumatized
Can we
the
just
child.
add as well that child didn't know that their parent was away?
Well, that child also didn't know, like they didn't know details as well. So I think just be very, very careful about your curiosity. And I definitely in another episode want to delve into the nuanced difference between, you know, knowledge and what is a safeguarding concern. Because I think a lot of the times staff will say that they need to know all this information because they feel like it's safeguarding. If social services are not involved, there isn't a safeguarding concern. You know, generally speaking.
I agree.
So I think you're right. I think it's like need to know basis and what is staffroom gossip. And there was a girl I supported years and years ago, and she was an A-star student. She didn't want teachers to know. She didn't want them to know her dad was in prison.
I remember it.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
she didn't want anyone to know. She just wanted to go into school, get on with getting her A's in her GCSEs. Very clever girl, very ambitious, very good kid. Dad went and did something stupid, ended up in prison. She was living at home with her brother and her mum. Kind of decided as a family they weren't going to tell school, and she was just going to go in and crack on, basically, and try and just get through it. But then she was missing Dad, and she was struggling. And there was one particular teacher who she really, really liked. And Mum had kind of said to her, you know, why don't you just talk to that teacher and let her know what's going on? You know, it's a lovely teacher.
Yeah.
And she might just know why you're not yourself. Yeah. So this girl plucked up the courage this one day to go and told the teacher that her dad was in prison. And then the next day or that afternoon, in a very short space of time, an entirely different teacher who she didn't have a bond with and she didn't have a relationship came up to her and said, I've heard your dad's in prison, so obviously just let me know if you need anything. Now, I do take a step back, and I think that everything was done and shared with good intention from the teacher's point of view. But unfortunately, that child was so thrown that this other teacher who she hadn't shared it with was now coming up to her and knew that her dad was in prison, that she then didn't go into school for weeks because she felt so like shocked and taken aback.
That'd be awful. That'd be horrible to experience, I think. I couldn't imagine that. And I remember her sharing that story as well. It was a lot.
And this was a family where there was no safeguarding concerns. You know, there was absolutely no need on a safety level for school to know. She'd kind of gone out of her way to share that story with a teacher that she trusted, who obviously thought, you know, she was doing the right thing by telling other staff. But I would say just be very, very careful be very mindful on the potential impact that can have.
Yeah. I think the thing with education is it's so difficult. Like, we could do episodes and episodes and episodes about education, and we will bounce around back to this. I think we just wanted to touch base a little bit in this episode of like the beginnings of going into education and what it's like, and what it can be like. But there is a lot of positives. I had a lot of great mentors. I know a lot of kids had a great mentor. I just want you to remember that you do have a right to privacy. All children have rights. If you don't want your school to know, that is okay. If you've got a great bond with your school and you want them to know, that is okay. There's ways about it. What you say goes. How you want to move forward with being supported is what you think's best for yourself. If you don't know that right now, that is okay. That is fine. People are going to try and do things because they think they've got the best intentions at heart. If you are not comfortable with it, you can say no. This is your experience with your parent. So please always remember that. Like I say, every single episode, if you've got any stories that you'd like to share about you being in school with a parent in prison and what you experienced, if you've got any questions, any funny stories, all anonymous, the email will be linked somewhere. We will love to read them, and you'll probably hear one of your questions or something being answered in a future podcast, especially if we bounce back around to it.
It's definitely something I think that we'll talk about more. I definitely think like kids want to know, like, what do you even say if someone asks, you know, where your parent is. And I think send us your questions, send us your comments, send us your stories. You know, and just I think, and any young people out there that it isn't your lived experience of parental imprisonment, but you might find out that there's a kid in your school who's got a parent in prison, just be kind. It's not rocket science, just be kind. Like, they haven't done anything wrong, and the way you respond to them can just make or break somebody's day, can't it?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think before we wrap this up, like we always do, we always say something we're grateful for or something along them lines. What was your favourite subject in school before we wrap up?
Oh yeah, let's do that. My favourite subject in school was drama. I'm not going to lie.
Was it? I can see that, you know.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Mine was English and drama.
Yeah, that's why we are the same
My
person.
drama teacher was called Miss Uzi. I love you to pieces. You gave me the best monologue in the world, to the point where I thought I was going to get on Hollyoaks with that. We won't even go there.
That's next.
Yeah, that's next.
Hollyoaks directors.
But like always, thank you so much for listening. Hope you come back for the next podcast.
See you on the next episode.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.